At the same time, you look at a guy like Vargas who's on the come up, incredibly hungry, only has one defeat, and a lot of people felt like he should be almost that fight against Timothy Bradley. And so when you look at it from that perspective, I definitely think it's something that I'm excited about because there's a lot of intrigue. But let's be real about something. The intrigue really involves Pacquiao. If Vargas wins in spectacular fashion, then the whole game changes within the welterweight division. When you see some of the young studs that are in here, if Vargas handles Pacquiao, not just beats him by a decision, controversy or whatever, but he handles it, that changes the game. But if he doesn't handle it, and Pacquiao is the one that does so, then you know what you're looking at Pacquiao, who's an 8-time champion. You're looking at him in a light that we're familiar with looking at him as. So it's a lot of intrigue, and that's what boxing is supposed to be about.
And the weigh-in is interesting, isn't it?
Well, I mean, anytime you look at the weigh-in, you're looking at guys whether or not they took care of themselves. And that's a big deal to me, personally. I see guys, you got to remember, I don't want to name names because I don't want to call guys out. I'm not talking about anybody in this card, but I've seen guys in the past where they walk in and you knew they weren't working out. They didn't put in the work. They didn't dedicate themselves to making sure they were in peak condition. They didn't take it seriously enough. They showed up because they wanted to get paid and they were arrogant enough to believe that they could beat people without putting in the work. You certainly don't expect that from Pacquiao or Vargas. You certainly don't expect that from Magdaleno, Benito, or Valdez for that matter. So when you look at it from that perspective, the weigh-in is going to be very interesting because I want to see the level of animosity guys have, how much they want to go at one another. I like to see the trash talking because usually with fighters, when you talk, you usually do feel compelled to back it up. Let's see what happens.
Well, they look into each other's eyes, right? They face off, and sometimes that's the truth.
Sometimes it is, sometimes it ain't. Sometimes guys are trying to be tricked the way in because they're worried that they ain't going to beat you in the ring. And I watch out for that too. Because sometimes you can tell. Not always, but sometimes there's a rare occasion where you can look at a guy and say, he don't believe that nonsense. He don't believe for 1 second that he's going to do what he's up there talking about he's going to do. He's trying to psych the guy out, but it ain't going to work.
What we've seen too in the past, particularly with Manny Pacquiao, is that the weigh-in is the moment where you're like, oh wait, we're fighting a big star, right? Like you kind of, all of a sudden, it becomes very real.
Well, that's really because of the crowd and the following that he has as opposed to Pacquiao himself, because he's one of the most incredibly nice human beings you'll ever meet in your life. And you're sitting there and you're a bit deceived because you're like, first of all, he's miniature, relatively small, lightning quick and what have you. But you're looking at him and you don't see power, you don't see ferocity. You might see some quickness, but you don't see the other elements. You learn that once you get in the ring. But he's always gentle, he's very respectful, doesn't have a negative word to say or anything like that. And you're like, this is the guy I'm about to go against that's going to knock me out. This is the guy that was knocking people out years ago. This is the guy with the lightning quickness that has power in both hands that can take me out. It's kind of hard to believe, but then you look out of that crowd and you see how hyped everybody is to see him, and you recognize his justification for it because they've seen a body of work spanning more than a decade where the greatness of Manny Pacquiao has been put on display on far too many occasions to have underestimated.